Good evening. I am the Panda Monk. Thank you for your hard work today. Tonight I will tell you the story of Oda Nobunaga, a man who walked through one of the most turbulent times in Japan's history. The Sengoku period, often called the Warring States era. Imagine a country divided, with countless warlords raising armies, villages caught in the crossfire, and the sound of marching soldiers echoing through the valleys. For over a century, Japan was never at peace. Into this storm, Nobunaga was born. His life would shine like a blazing fire, full of daring ambition, innovation, and cruelty. It is a story of triumph and tragedy. But tonight, we will move slowly, allowing the story to unfold gently, so that you may drift into rest as you listen. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let us begin. Oda Nobunaga was born in 1534 in Owari Province, what is now Aichi Prefecture in central Japan. As a child, Nobunaga was seen as unusual, even foolish. His hair was untidy, his clothes plain and rough. He wore straw sandals and dashed through the castle town, sometimes shouting loudly in the streets, sometimes eating dumplings as he walked. People whispered behind his back, "Can such a boy really inherit the clan?" Even his relatives doubted him, but if one looked closely, his eyes were different. They held a spark of curiosity, a fascination with things that were new. When foreign merchants brought rare goods, when he first touched a matchlock firearm from overseas, young Nobunaga studied them carefully. He was not a simple fool, but a child who refused to be bound by convention. Inheriting the clan when Nobunaga was still in his teens, his father, Oda Nobunaga, died. The young Nobunaga inherited leadership of the Oda clan. At the funeral, while relatives prayed quietly and retainers lowered their heads, Nobunaga suddenly grabbed a handful of incense powder and threw it at the altar. Gasps filled the hall. "What a fool!" people muttered. Yet Nobunaga's act may not have been carelessness. Perhaps he cared less for outward form and more for what was in the heart. It was the sign of a man who would always act by his own thoughts, not by the rules set before him. This defiance invited enemies. Other lords within Owari saw the young man as weak, and many tried to overthrow him. From the beginning, Nobunaga's life as a leader was filled with trials. By 1560, Nobunaga was 26 years old. That year, a great threat appeared. Imagawa Yoshimoto, Lord of Suruga and Totomi, marched into Owari with an army of 25,000 soldiers. Nobunaga had only 2,000 to 3,000 men. The difference was overwhelming. His retainers begged him, "We must stay behind the walls. We cannot hope to fight such numbers." But Nobunaga answered calmly, "We attack, we fight, and we win." On the eve of battle, he performed a dance and sang the song Atsumori, life is but 50 years, compared with eternity, it is but a fleeting dream. His words reminded all who heard them of life's brevity, and his resolve to risk everything in battle. The next morning, clouds gathered. Heavy rain fell. Thunder rolled across the hills. Nobunaga saw his chance. Now is the time. Charge. His men slipped through valleys, their approach hidden by storm and thunder. The Imagawa, confident of victory, were said to be drinking and celebrating in their camp. Suddenly, Nobunaga's soldiers fell upon them. Shouts, lightning, and the clash of steel filled the air. The Imagawa army collapsed in confusion. Yoshimoto himself was cut down. Against 10 times their number, Nobunaga had achieved a miraculous victory. From that day, the man once mocked as a fool was recognized as a rising power in the land. After Okehazama, Nobunaga's power spread into Mino province. To secure his position, he married his sister Oichi to Azai Nagamasa, lord of Northern Omi. Through this bond, he hoped to remove threats from behind him. But fate betrayed him. In 1570, Nobunaga marched against Asakura Yoshikage. Just then, Azai Nagamasa, his own brother-in-law, turned against him. Azai forces at our rear. Panic spread through the camp. With Asakura in front and Azai behind, Nobunaga was nearly destroyed. Legend says Oichi, his sister, sent him a warning. A bag of beans with red ones hidden at the bottom to signal betrayal. Nobunaga barely escaped. He regrouped, and with Tokugawa Ieyasu at his side, faced the Azai Asakura alliance at Anagawa. Tens of thousands clashed across the river. Arrows darkened the sky. Spears clashed with thunderous sound, and the waters of the river ran red with blood. At last, the Azai and Asakura were broken. But it was a costly victory. The Azai clan perished, and Oichi fled with her children. A painful parting between siblings. Even as Nobunaga defeated rival clans, a powerful religious force opposed him. The great monastery of Enryaku-ji on Mount Hiei. Thousands of warrior monks lived there, and they supported the enemies of the Oda clan. For centuries, rulers had feared to touch this sacred mountain. But Nobunaga was different. He believed to bring a new age, the old order must be destroyed. In 1571, his army surrounded the mountain. Flames spread from hall to hall. Temples that had stood for centuries were swallowed by fire. Monks, villagers, men, women, even children. Countless lives were lost. The night sky glowed red, and from Kyoto people watched in terror. Is Nobunaga a demon? They whispered. He is an enemy of the Buddha. Yet Nobunaga did not waver. For him, it was not only destruction, but a symbol. the breaking of ancient powers to clear the path for a new age. But Nobunaga's most dangerous rival was the warlord Takeda Shingen, the Tiger of Kai, known as the strongest general of the Sengoku era. In 1572, Shingen led 25,000 men westward, aiming for Tokugawa Ieyasu's domain. If Ieyasu fell, Nobunaga would be next. At Mikitagahara, Shingen's cavalry thundered across the plain. The ground shook. Dust rose like smoke, and the Tokugawa army was crushed. Even Nobunaga, though not present, felt the weight of this defeat. He realized the true might of Shingen, but soon after, Shingen fell ill and died. Had he lived longer, Japan's history might have taken a very different path. Fate had spared Nobunaga from his greatest rival. 3 years later, Shingen's son, Katsuyori, sought to prove his strength. With 15,000 men, he besieged Nagashino Castle, defended by only 500. Smoke signals rose, calling desperately for aid. Nobunaga arrived with 30,000 men, joined by Tokugawa's 8,000. Their allied army was vast, but Nobunaga's true weapon was not numbers. It was innovation. He lined up 3,000 muskets in 3 ranks, firing in rotation. This 3-stage volley created an unending storm of gunfire. When the Takeda cavalry charged, the sound of hooves filled the earth, but they were met with volley after volley of shots. Warriors fell in waves, their bravery powerless before innovation. The Takeda were broken, and with this battle, the age of spears and bows gave way to the age of firearms. Yet Nobunaga's longest and most difficult struggle was against the Ishiyama Hongan-ji, a fortress temple in present-day Osaka. The followers of the Jodo Shinshu sect were united by deep faith. Farmers, townspeople, even women and children joined the resistance, chanting Namu Amida Butsu. For more than 10 years, the Hongan-ji held out even when attacked. They rebuilt and resisted again. Supplied by the Mori Navy, they endured against all odds. Only in 1580, through the mediation of the imperial court, was peace made. The temple was abandoned, and the long struggle ended. From this war, Nobunaga learned that the power of the people, bound together by faith, could rival even great armies. With his enemies falling away, Nobunaga turned to shaping a new order. He used the seal of Tenka Fubu, rule the realm through military power. But its meaning was deeper, to end chaos and create peace. He reformed the economy. Guilds that had monopolized trade were abolished. Markets became free for all, known as Rakuichi Rakuza. Commerce flourished. On the shores of Lake Biwa, he built Azuchi Castle, 7 stories high. its walls adorned with Buddhist and Christian art. It was more than a fortress. It was a symbol of a new age. Lords and foreign missionaries alike were invited to see it. Visitors gasped, "We have never seen such a castle." Nobunaga was no longer only a warlord. He was a reformer, a man seeking to shape a new Japan. The Honnō-ji incident, 1582. By 1582, Nobunaga's power was unmatched. The Azai, the Asakura, the Takeda, and the Hongan-ji were gone. Only the Mori and Uesugi remained. The land was nearly united. At that time, Toyotomi Hideyoshi fought the Mori in western Japan. He called for Nobunaga's aid. Nobunaga lodged at Honnō-ji in Kyoto, planning to march soon. But in the early hours of June 2nd, the silence of Kyoto was broken. The enemy is at Honnō-ji. The cry came not from foes, but from his own general, Akechi Mitsuhide. Mitsuhide's thousands surrounded the temple. Arrows rained down. Flames rose into the night sky. Nobunaga took up his sword. "So be it," he is said to have murmured. He fought fiercely with only a handful of men, but the numbers were too great. The temple was consumed by fire, and within the flames, Nobunaga's life ended at the age of 49. Why did Mitsuhide betray him? Resentment, ambition, or hidden forces? No one knows. But with Nobunaga's death, the course of history changed forever. Nobunaga was ruthless, yet innovative. He was feared as a destroyer and admired as a visionary. The boy once mocked as a fool rose to the height of power, only to fall in flames. Yet his footsteps remain, deeply carved into the history of Japan. And now, the story ends. Close your eyes. Breathe slowly. Let go of the burdens of today. Drift gently into sleep and dream of another time, another world, where the echoes of history fade into silence. Good night.